lack of milk for children and lactating women having impact on nutrition. Then how do we scale up investment on early action mechanisms? Because this is a lengthy process. This is going to be a long winding route for both state and non-state actors.
Yeah. Let me also start by mentioning, contributing to what you had asked Deputy Director Amos earlier about why does it seem that we are not getting things right. I think there's also need for us to understand that there are also external factors. For example, the climate change, and it is not a unique phenomenon only affecting Kenya. It's affecting all the countries globally. But also what we know is that especially the Horn of Africa is bearing more extreme of the climate change impacts. And that's why we are seeing more recurrent drought periods. Even when you look at what happened since 2011 up to today, we have had different episodes of drought happening. And now this is like summing up it all together. So in as much as there has been a lot of progress towards understanding the drought risk in this country, we also have to understand what is happening outside our own efforts, which are external factors. What do we need to do to upscale the anticipatory action? I think one, as an organization, we've been working very closely with the NDMA, the county governments and the national government. First of all, to work on the policies and legal frameworks, because those are some of the basic structures that support institutionalization of some of these practices. Other than that, we've been working through advocacy and collaborating with the different government agencies and non-state actors to enhance our coordination and to co-produce our advisories. Particularly, we work with we have done a lot of progress between KMD, early warning information, when they released the weather forecast. Mm-hmm. We have seen a lot of progress in terms of timely release of maybe different weather products, which never used to exist before. Through that process of collaboration, being able to work together and plan ahead, we are seeing a lot of shift even within the government agencies, but also within non-state actors, including Kenya Red Cross. So we are seeing a situation where we are able to look at what is it that we can be able to get from KMD 3 months earlier, and make a projection and how that will impact different sectors, key sectors, and together as stakeholders, particularly through the National Climate Outlook Forum, mm-hmm. we come together to understand what is this forecast is telling us and what do we need to do. Already we have gone through that process for this oncoming season, where we were able to sit together and come up with advisories per sector. And that is what is now guiding us when it comes to immediate interventions that need to be actioned, both at the institutional level, but also at the community level. And part of it is to enhance awareness creation and dissemination of this information to the farmers, to the pastoralists, to the common person on the ground, so that they can be able to know this is what projections look like for the next 3 months, and this is how I'll be affected at the household level. So we're also looking at a situation where people can be able to take up their own individual actions to cushion themselves. And with that, we have been very key to build that capacity, particularly by establishing local village committees on disaster risk reduction through a participatory process where they are able to map out what are some of the risks that affect them. And not only drought, because drought is just one risk, but we are faced by several risks in this country. And throughout this process, what we have learned is that we cannot only focus on one risk and ignore the rest. So we are downscaling that approach from an institutional level to a local level, where people are able to map out several risks, be able to analyze how they affect different components of their day-to-day and social structures. And from that, they can be able to come up with an action plan, which stakeholders, and even them, they can be able to do something about it. So I think in the long term, that is something that needs to be enhanced, and breaking the barrier between community understanding the climate information, early warning information, but also being able to strengthen our institutional capacity to support early actions.
Esther, you've talked about climate change, and this has been the elephant in the room. Every time we're talking about issues such as drought, it's always climate change as one of the biggest contributors. And of course, one would ask then, if climate change has been such a big problem and has caused erratic weather conditions that have led us to where we are as a country, we have other countries that are desert countries, yet they're the biggest exporters of food. I would cite examples of countries such as Egypt, where there are success stories about how agriculture has thrived despite the unfortunate weather conditions in that country. I want to believe Kenya is at a better place. What is it that has failed in our systems, or our way of life, or our interventions that make us, incapable of embracing some of the mechanisms that have worked elsewhere?
Yeah.
Because this seems like it's a situation that is here to stay, at least for now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we are in different levels as communities and as different states when it comes to different sectors, development. And I think why we are severely affected is because we do have less coping capacity, particularly when you look at the counties being affected and the livelihood options that they do have. They are very prone to climate-sensitive impact. And I think in the long term, we need to integrate structural interventions with non-structural interventions. And in this, I'm looking at, we need to look at some of those best examples from some of those countries and be able to bring those home. But I think that also this is accompanied by resources. Okay. And what we have seen also is that there has been also significant reduction of resources, both at even, I think, government collection level, we've seen that, but also from a humanitarian perspective. We have had other crises coming up throughout this period, particularly in other countries where we did not expect some of these things to happen. And so some of the resources that could have been channeled to undertake some of interventions have been diverted elsewhere. But I think it's an opportunity for us to learn as a country what is happening and best practices elsewhere and be able to domesticate that to our communities. But also it is important for us to invest a lot in behavior change, particularly being able to engage the communities, particularly around the change of livelihood options or uptake of new technology. I find that very challenging because people have a lot of attachment to their own traditions. Okay. And some of these interventions will mean that they have to open up to uptake some of these practices that they have never done before.
Sort of embrace the new normal. Yeah, the new way of life.
It seems a hard departure point to embrace. I mean, changes that agencies like, or stakeholders like Red Cross are willing to roll out to those who are affected. Amos, I'm sure you want to come in on this. Yes, go ahead, please.